Hey, thank you, Mike. It's 9 o'clock. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Mills County Commissioners Court for June 28th. Y'all will join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Williams, would you lead us in prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you have granted us. Father, be with us as we do the business of Mills County. Direct us and guide us through your actions, that it may be your will that it be done. Bless this country for its birthday coming up forward. Bless this county with some rain. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, the first item on our agenda is reviewing the minutes of June 14th and June 21st. Has everyone had a chance to look them over? Are there any questions or corrections?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Williams to approve the minutes of June 14th and June 21st as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, audience with individuals. Before we get into this, I want to just remind the court to try and really get on your microphones when you talk. In our last meeting, we had comments from the rear part of the courtroom that they couldn't hear us, and we've always had those problems with some of the YouTube and Zoom connections. So I know it's going to feel contrived, but if you would try and stay on them. And then as we have speakers, we'll hand them the portable microphone. And if you're speaking, if you would try and keep it near your mouth, it would help everybody. So with that, we have, let's see. We have 3 people signed up to speak. All of them are about the subdivision ordinance. Oops, paper sticking together. There may be 4. Yes, also on the subdivision ordinance. So I'm going to go through and your options are to address the court in the courtroom at this time, and alternatively to wait until we get to that item on the agenda. So I will go through and ask you the preference. There's a time limit on speaking. The county clerk will be the timekeeper and will be reminding you if you exceed it. See if I can read this. Terry Smith, White, okay. Lance Inderman, okay. Mike Williams, okay. And Fred Herman, okay. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the accounts payable. These were distributed Friday from the treasurer's office. So everybody had a chance to look over them. I'd point out that the annual property insurance bill for the county is in this one. That's a relatively large number. Any questions or comments on the accounts payable?
Make a motion to approve the accounts payable, Judge.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner, motion from Commissioner White, second from Commissioner Williams. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. discuss Mill Central Appraisal District budget for the coming year. This was sent to me electronically. It's printed in your package. The comment, and I think it's in here from the appraisal district, is here it is. You don't need to approve it. We're going to have a public hearing at the appraisal district, and the only action for an entity would be if we disapprove it. And then if we do disapprove it and a majority of the district's taxing entities disapprove it, then they have to reconsider it. So, but I don't know how we have the option to disapprove it without putting it on the agenda for approval. So here we have the appraisal district budget. Let me give you the highlight at the bottom of the first page. It's $451,000. I'm reading this right. Last year's budget was 401,000. It's a little deceiving this year because they're making a final quarterly building payment. So if you look at apples and apples, the way I did it, it's about you take another 15,000 out of that difference. Also, in the bottom of the page, as required under the statutes, is a listing of the salaries in the appraisal district, and you'll see a proposed additional appraisal.
That's the biggest expense, is it not? The health insurance and salary? It's
Yeah, yes, it
everything
is.
else is about the same.
Yes. I think there's a big jump in the retirement expense also.
So that increases on salary increases, does it not?
In part, but I think there's also, I understand there's something else going on. It's different. It's a higher percentage than we see here at the county, even though it's also from TCDRS.
Mike, at the last board meeting, we did question that on that, and they were supposed to find out at the next board meeting and find out why that was such a high increase.
Jason, you're on the board. How many actually votes on this? How many entities? 7?
Yes,
It has to take a majority of the entities disapprove before it fails. Is that not correct?
yes.
How does your board feel about the budget?
Well, the overall, everything went down except for when you added that new employee, like you were saying, Mike. So when that new employee goes in there, even though they've got the income and salary at 28,000, when you look at all the benefits and stuff, you're looking at 44,000. So that's what brings it up to that match there. I mean, to the current. Several of those other things that are, a new person's going to have to do travel, they're going to have to go take testing, and some of that office experience and stuff is going to be related to that new employee. So it even went down greater than that.
Has the board voted on this budget?
Yes, the board voted on it, and it passed unanimously.
Yeah, there's some other things in here that are less obvious. The vehicle appraisal district pickup truck is being sold, and a new one is being bought. But all you're seeing in here is the first year's payment on it. So it's sort of a capital budget item. The attached pages to it is kind of a line by line narrative from the appraisal district explaining what they're proposing to do. significant to the county, obviously, because we pay once it's approved, and unless enough of them, other districts object, this just rolls right into our budget as an expense.
Jason, how come the insurance went up so high, 41%?
Well, you're adding another employee in there. That's the biggest jump.
Have you had any calls on the budget, Jason?
No, sir, not. This is the first time it's really been out there.
Wasn't anybody in your board meeting when y'all approved the budget?
No, sir. So it was told to us that, so our board meeting was on the second Tuesday of June. And that second Tuesday of June, they already had 30 new deeds, new property deeds that they were having to deal with. And then they had everybody turning in their complaints to argue their properties. And they were just overloaded and they're not keeping up. And that's been that way pretty much steady for this last year, even though COVID was in there. So that's why they requested a new employee to help with the appraisal.
Yeah, I mean, my view on that is you're not seeing if they're behind. It's perhaps a catch up behind. You're not seeing extended hours at the office being posted. You're not seeing overtime. And if you look at the bottom of the page, the salaries are higher than a lot of our elected officials. So, anyway.
Their salaries are higher than most people.
Yeah. My thought on this was I wanted the court to see it, let them have their public hearing, which is, Jason, is it this week?
Yes, sir.
Now, how much of a public hearing they'll have in that small conference room remains to be seen. But then their board will either modify it, adopt it, or change. Well, I guess those are the two options. And then we'll maybe have it on our next agenda to go as a final.
It's just
My gut is it's too much money, but I think we let the process run, let the public have input at their public hearing, and then we'll have a final chance in 2 weeks. But we have a limited time period. I think it's 15 days after their final budget to either say nothing, in which case it's in effect, or pass a resolution in opposition.
That is correct. Yeah.
Oh, well, with that, I would move to table it.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. My paper slid off the floor. It's going to take me a minute to get organized. Consider an act on Mills County Group medical dental coverage for years 21-22. This was in court, I want to say last session. We have a deadline of returning our enrollment sheet to TAC, our carrier, of June 30, so that's day after tomorrow, so we can't table this again. The highlights are that the cost is going up. This is an insurance that the county currently pays 100% of the coverage for the employee, and the employee pays 100% of the coverage for dependents if they choose to. Last time I proposed passing the increase, a portion of it through to the employee going from something like 100% reimbursement to 95%, just to create some skin in the game and offsetting it with a salary increase. So net, it wasn't a financial change for our employees or the county significantly, but it did change the underlying structure of the plan. The other alternatives that come from our carrier include changes in co-pays and deductibles to try and manage the amount of the increase.
The county's always paid the insurance for our employees, has it not?
Only since as far as I know, since we've been covering employees with insurance.
Correct. And it's always been a kind of only perk that we really have for our employees, is it not?
I completely disagree, Commissioner, because we also provide a pretty liberal holiday and vacation and sick leave schedule, and we provide a very generous retirement plan, which is a 200% match. So I would say it's one of several benefits we provide our employees.
Correct.
It unlike the other benefits that are scaled on compensation, this is just a flat dollar amount per employee, and I want to say it's around $10,500 per head.
But we didn't give our employees raises in the last couple of years. We've given them longevity pay, have we not?
They have received
But no.
longevity pay that totaled
Some of them, not all.
Yeah, but
Some.
the county budget for longevity pay last year was slightly in excess of $40,000.
41,000. Yes. Well, I still like to see us furnish 100% of our insurance for our employees. Personally, that's the way I feel about it. I don't know how the other courts, the rest of the court feels. But
Well, I feel the same way you do. I think it's a benefit. It helps us try to get employees qualified.
it's hard enough like it is to hire somebody, but we have to have some kind of perks for them. And I just think it's important that we continue paying their insurance.
Well, I mean, the Mills County pays, look at the numbers, $455,000 a year for employee medical insurance. So that's a significant budget component. It's more than many of our county departments. So it's worth the court considering to see if there's a different way to treat it. This in the aggregate is increasing that cost by, I'm rounding, $20,000.
But in our budget process, you've suggested getting back to the entities outside of the county, back the way they were before last year. Are you not?
I did. Yeah, we cut the number of the community agencies' budgets last year due to COVID and the expected effect, and it was an actual effect that it had on a number of components of county income. And when we did that, it was with the understanding, but not the commitment, that, you know, we come back to a normal environment, we'll give back the money we took away. So we never did take away.
And then our insurance had in the last couple of years decreased what we.
No, last year it was flat for the first time in 20 plus years. Before that, it's increased every year.
I was thinking the last couple of years we had a decrease in that.
Now, I think at one point, I forget which carrier, we changed companies at one point. That might have been liability or physical, but that did result in a significant insurance decrease.
Well, this has went up like 4.3% over last year's cost, right?
$19,631.
Yes.
Percentage wise.
Yeah.
Percentage wise it is.
And we're wanting to cut back on it. MCAD went up 41%, and I don't see any counter proposals on their cutting theirs back. I don't understand.
Well, I don't understand either, and that's why I have a problem with some of the MCAD budgeting. But that's not a reason to throw in the towel and not do the right thing here.
Well, if we increase the employee side, they're not seeing any kind of benefit from it, are they? In other words, if we try to just offset the insurance, they'll be paying more on retirement, more on withholdings. Is that not correct? And probably receiving less money take on
I
pay?
don't like that. We're going to not give them that and then they're getting raised, have them pay it and try and give a raise.
Yeah, I mean, we'll look at the other proposals from the Texas Association of Counties. They have said, okay, we have a $25 copay, which is relatively low. They're saying if you go to a $30 copay, it's going to cut the premium cost increase in half.
Well, I'd rather see us do that, take the option 2 off the current, or option 1, and we save money on that rather than start adjusting and making the county employees give them a raise and then take the raise back away from them before they pay on their insurance.
Okay, well, just to be clear, I read that too quickly. Option 1 and 2 increase the copay, but they also change the deductibles. So if you look at above that line, the deductibles go from $750 to $1,000 or $1,500, depending on option 1 versus option 2. Now, I'd tell you that none of those are out of line in the marketplace. Is there any other discussion?
I guess my opinion is I would rather see if it come between that or employee hourly raises, I'd rather see the insurance paid.
Well, is that a motion, Commissioner Parson?
I'll make a motion that we leave the insurance as is and pay it.
So the motion would be to just restate it to execute the renewal agreement with Texas Association of Counties at with the county paying 100% of the premium on input.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Is that an option 1 or 2 on our?
That is neither. That's the
no, it's neither one.
It's current.
It's the renewal rates under the current plan.
I'll second his motion.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Park and a second from Commissioner Wright. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we're done. Seven, discuss Central Texas Regional Child Fatality Review Team. Try and get to that set of papers. The Texas Family Code, I think it was a recent legislative change, required this child fatality review. What has been, it also permits this to be done regionally through hospital districts. Mills County is part of Trauma Service Area L, which is also called Central Texas RAC. And they have offered to include Mills County in their child fatality review team. It's no cost, it's volunteer extra work. It makes, complies with the family code requirement to review and report to the state on child fatalities, which is not a hugely common occurrence here, but we have had a couple. And the reason it's in front of the court is that it ultimately will require a interlocal agreement. They have provided a sample interlocal agreement from Milam County that they proposed just to change to Mills County, which doesn't say anything except that we'll cooperate in reviewing child fatalities. But then the thing that concerned me was it's, In Milam County, it's signed off and approved by everybody from every city, from the police department, the sheriff, every school district, um, various child protective agencies. I'm going to propose something like this. It just goes back to them from the county. But you can see the language. It's non-financial. It's a commitment to cooperate, basically. And I think it covers them a little bit on information sharing, because juvenile information is very confidential.
When does this have to be approved, Judge? It's just a discussion item on the agenda.
Yeah, there's no deadline on it. I just wanted to introduce it to everybody. I've told them verbally that we would, as long as it doesn't cost us anything, we would take advantage of their offer to do it. But I need to talk about it, obviously, I think, with the school districts and the county attorney, and wanted to socialize it with the court first.
I think we'll take advantage of it.
Okay. So
Yeah, go ahead.
moving on, 8, consider an act to designate Brown County Surveyor Don King as a designated representative of the county pursuant to section 3C of the Mills County Subdivision Ordinance. And this is the 1985 ordinance. And I'll read you the sentence. Commissioners Court may appoint a registered public surveyor as a designated representative of the court to examine the subdivision on the ground to assure itself that the plat and documents accurately represent the subdivision. The cost of the inspection shall be charged to the developer and paid prior to the final approval of the plat. We have one preliminary plat we accepted a couple of weeks ago in Indian Springs. We have another one that I expect to be represented in the near future for Rolling Oaks, the one on the south and 183. And the next step after preliminary is they're going to be going out and doing other things and coming back for a final. That's the point that it would be helpful to have a designated surveyor to review it. It's provided in our existing ordinance. I've talked to Mr. King, who is the county surveyor for Brown County. He is willing to do it. So what is here before the court is to take the action to designate him, not as the county surveyor, but we are appointing a registered public surveyor as a designated representative of the court to review the final plats.
In that situation, then the people that are submitting the plats will pay his salary.
Not his salary, his fee. It's an hourly fee. He doesn't have a salary in Brown County.
They pay his hourly wage then?
They pay his, I don't know if you could equate a professional's hourly fee to his hourly wage, because he has expenses too. But just like you hire a lawyer, you pay him, let's say $200 an hour. That doesn't mean that lawyer's getting $200 an hour.
Okay, his total cost will be paid by the developer.
That's correct. His billing rate is $75 an hour.
Okay.
I don't know how many hours it takes to look at a subdivision.
Because he'll probably have mileage in his vehicle and.
It's just a flat $75 an hour is what he's telling me. So, I mean, it doesn't seem out of line. I've talked to other people around and heard rates from as low as 50, which was admittedly low, to as high as 250.
Sure.
So
I'll just throw in a couple of comments here. I've moved on all the time. He's been kind of surveyor around kind of a long time. And I know, I couldn't tell you the numbers, but I know the deal he does over there is there's a filing fee required for filing plat once it's been approved by everybody. There's, in Brown County, it's different with what size plat it is. It's a small plat, it's less expensive I'm gonna use these numbers, I may not be right, but let's say there's a $350 filing fee. His deal over there is he gets $200 of that $350 filing fee. I'm talking about a small plat. And Don, he says that if he doesn't have to mark it up more than twice, usually that covers his fee. In his words, if he gets a hard-headed surveyor that won't do what he's telling him to do, and he has to spend more time on that, then there may be an additional fee on those flats. I know it takes a lot of pressure off the commissioner's court. I've been there with the commissioners around, but it takes a lot of pressure off them. They tell people, send it to the county surveyor, when we see his signature on there, we feel satisfied it's compliant with our regulations, and they pretty well adopted. I can see you guys struggling with these subdivision flats. He's going to be looking at it from a surveyor's perspective, making sure there's no conflicts with the joining boundary lines, making sure the lot corners have been properly marked, making sure the roads are of the correct width, and all the other requirements of the state on the surveyor plat itself. He's basically going to be satisfied. Or indicating to you that those requirements are set. And Mills County has not had a county surveyor for years. As far as I know, J.C. Long was the last one in the 60s. The statute provides for the county surveyor doing these things. But the statute also says the same thing in our regulations. That the court wants someone to perform those duties that we do not have a county surveyor.
So Gerald, you worked with Mr. King enough, you feel comfortable.
And maybe I should make a disclosure here, Don's friend, but he and I have done a lot of work together over the past 4 years. He knows what he's doing, he'll get the ground running close, just physically, or picking up flats. He could come here before, talk before he he's Don is no spring chicken. So I don't know how long he might do this, but he did indicate to me, and I think the judge was at least for that.
This is on just the 85, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
And
That's the only ordinance we have.
correct, because we're working on the new one,
Yeah.
or trying to, but 85.
Yes.
Sounds good.
So I'll move that we appoint Don King as the designated representative of the court to examine subdivisions on the ground pursuant to Section 3C of the Mills County subdivision regulations.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next item on the agenda is consider an act to declare a following sheriff department, sheriff office equipment as scrap. And then it's a list of, count them, 10 or 12 things. It looks largely camera related. Let me invite Chief Deputy Green, if you would, and hand him a microphone. If you could give us the quick thumbnail like you gave me the other day.
I think everybody can hear me now. So these cameras we've collected over the years for official use, crime scene photos, and things of that nature. As time has progressed, the technology has progressed. Obviously, we've got some old 35mm stuff. Not sure if they work at all. We've got a number of digital cameras. We have since stopped using those. We've had problems with them. We've just moved on. We've got this program that allows us to use our cell phones that are much more robust in their capabilities legally and just physically able to do more. These cameras have been in operation for the deputies in a number of years. The problem I have, normally we would see if someone wanted to, we could donate them to someone, but with these digital cameras, I'm no expert on them, but I'm concerned with the storage on them. You know, they have obviously removable storage, but looks like a hard drive on a computer. I'm not sure what is still left on the internal electronics. And of course, we can have those photographs getting out. That was why we decided to go ahead and do away with it. I'm not sure if the agencies out there do it. So that's why we decided to do it.
Thank you. Any questions from the court for Deputy Green?
Make a motion that everything's listed here, we declare a scrap of the sheriff's office.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Wright to declare the assorted listed camera items as scrap. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Commissioner Buren. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? But thank you. Okay, number 10, discussion proposed subdivision regulation. So this is the point. We have people signed up to speak. I'll just take them in the order they were handed to me. Terry Smith. Let's make sure we get the microphone in. And Ms. Scott, if you'd be keeping the time.
First, I understand that y'all have changed the deal about the property restriction. Agriculture use is 58. That's correct. So I'm assuming there'll be something in written in that to make that change. Say I wasn't here for the last meeting. The other thing, and I'll kind of do this in a way of giving you a example, I guess. And this concerns the definition, subdivision. Definitions all have included this: the division of a piece of land in 2 or more parts shall comply with the rules and regulations of the for area. Let's say that you've got 300 acres out here. You're ready to retire, and you decide, okay, I'm going to sell off a couple of 100-acre tracts off the side of my property. Okay, do that, and you haven't done the subdivision by your definition. And admittedly, these same definitions are in the rules that were under that. They've been in effect since 84 or whatever it is. It's just nobody paid its attention to it. Nobody tried to enforce them. It didn't come up. But in this case, it's just not fair if somebody decides they want to sell off a couple of tracts off their property, that they're going to be classified as a subdivider and have to do all the things that y'all did. That's my opinion. I know it's a hard definition to change or make some change here, but it's obviously something that you could put where it's 5 tracts or less. You don't have under subdivision. You know, that's what I'm asking you to do.
Thank you. Mr. Enderman.
I was not aware from what I listened to the other day in visiting with you, Judge, that we were still looking at removing the ag use issue. So from my perspective, that's the biggest issue with the subdivision regulations is trying to tell somebody how to use the property, restrict the property. To me, that's a takings issue. You're taking somebody's legal safe use of a piece of property and forcing that change, whether it's 5 acres or 10 acres, but trying to do it from a position of taxation. That's, to me, that's always the appraisal district job everywhere we do business. We do not see these restrictions being enforced as a condition of plat in any county that we do business in the state of Texas. So I would take issue with that. There's other issues on there. I really feel like a committee of local stakeholders should be brought in and put together some good proposals for this. I don't have a problem with regulations as long as it's reasonable. It makes sense. It's got, it's been well thought out. So my recommendation would be to table this until you get a committee of stakeholders together, and hopefully then we can all come here and support it at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Williams.
Well, I'd like to commend you on updating since 36 years. Been along to get an update. I think it's a good thing to do. The part that I have issues with first is actually gun restrictive laws. I don't see them need to put in no discharge of firearm on a certain amount of acres. State of Texas has a good set of rules. The bullet can't leave your property line, whether it's 1 acre or 1,000 acres. That's a good rule, and I think that should be removed and not be trying to invoke that. Second thing is agree with ag exemption should not be part of this subdivision update. That's a different thing. I heard discussions about cow carrying capacity on acreage, but there's a lot of ag use for properties that are smaller than people have full tins, cabinet tins, storage, whatever. Part of an ag operation is not connected to this different place. Cattle conditioning, dentist, keep dumping that in place. I think it's less than 10 acres. One of the bigger ag operations around. But I don't think it's, I think it's a present district road to design what's that, and that pretty much state of Texas also guidelines of the present district follow. I encourage you to stay involved with the subdivision rules. One of the things within the spirit of the document of the draft, I don't see a need for getting professional groups that's in the county and specializing them out or pulling them out, attorneys, bankers, realtors, engineers, all these different professional groups, having a list of not once but twice that they're subject to penalties. I think it's pretty easy. There are rules, there's consequences. I would thank very all of those people that are listed. I don't know a single one that would want to defraud the county in any way. And I think that those people should be removed from the document. And you got the rules, you got the penalties, but you don't need to identify professional, potential professional, perhaps make a more inclusive list. One of the two. I encourage the process going forward, but not for items that really aren't related to the subdivision update.
Thank you. Fred Herman.
I just became aware of this procedure you're working on here. And I read it. The last one that I read was on your website. It was June 3rd, so it was updated working draft. I don't see anything more current than that on the website. But it doesn't say who wrote it. Did the community council here write this thing? Or did our county judge write? Or our county attorney write? Or did, who's the author of this particular document? Can anybody answer that?
This isn't a dialogue. This is your ability. Your statement to the court is you would like to have that information.
I would like to know who wrote it. I'd like to know who they based it on. I went back and read the state regulation on subdivision development, number 232. I find no recommendation in there for anything to do with firearm, as Mr. Williams just mentioned. Firearm restriction thing is opening a can of worms that I don't think this county is prepared to get involved with. It doesn't make any common sense to begin with. I mean, as a firearm operator, anybody that has ever handled any kind of firearm, BB gun on up, or cannon, they're responsible for every bolt that comes out of the darn thing. So, like it says, the state statute always says, the If it goes out of your property line, across the road, you're in trouble. You don't need to be fine tuning some kind of little document here about firearms. I don't care if it's on 10 acres or 1,000 acres. Today it's 10 acres, it could be 1,000 acres tomorrow. If it's in writing, if you want us to give you an inch, who's going to say the next county commissioner is not going to take a mile? We're not going to have that. We're not going to be reasonable about accepting it as a community. This is a huge recreational shooting community. We've got a great hunting heritage here. If you're going to restrict that, you're going to change the shape and character of this community, not just Gulfway, but the county. That word will get out real quick. Again, the next issue obviously is the ag exemption. 50 acres, you're picking 50 acres today, say we can't have ag exemptions on anything less than 50 acres. Okay, it's 50 acres today. What is it tomorrow? The next community council gets elected here, they don't like 50 acres, they want more tax base. Is it going to be 100 acres? Is it going to be 500 acres? You shut down some of these ag exemptions from 500 or 1,000 acres, you're going to lose your tax base in this county. Because people can't run a cattle ranch on 1,000 acres with no ag exemption. They're only making it now. You might want to think about that. The wording in the development of the engineering specs for the actual subdivision developments. I've done a survey with some of my neighbors and friends in the community, and everybody's looking at this and scratching their heads going, it sounds like you really are trying to put some restrictions on future developments. Obviously not ones that are in the process right now. They go under the 85 rule. But in the future, you're trying to restrict the development of subdivisions, put restrictions on here so we maybe don't have more subdivisions developed. You're trying to maintain the culture and the society that we have here now. If that's your intent, I think most of the community would agree with you. We'd like to keep this a rural community where we let our kids play outside and we don't have to have restrictions on every little thing that somebody doesn't like. Oh, I don't like guns 2 miles away, so therefore we can't have it.
1 minute.
A little bit. I'll make it quick. My point is that if this has been written because somebody in some other county wrote it that way, or we're just going to use their generic thing, or some out of county attorney's office has written this thing, we're just picking it up because it's easier that way. If we don't have the input from our local community people, if there's no stats from our sheriff's office for the problem of discharging firearms in 10 acres, do we have a problem with that? I mean, are there a bunch of gunfire shooting at barns and killing cows at neighbors' homes? If there is, we need to know about it. If there isn't, what are we talking about guns for? We're talking about subdivisions. If you want to restrict subdivisions and make it more difficult, put in a new subdivision. Make them pave all the roads where you have street gutters, underground sewer, and drainage problem.
Thank you,
You
Mr.
can
Harmon.
make it more restricted if you want.
Okay, so what we have listed is a discussion of the proposed subdivision ordinance. We just to rehash some of this, we had a workshop, I want to say last Monday. There was some public attendance. We productively went through the June 5th or 6th document that Mr. Herman referenced, and I guess I'll take credit for, I just over the weekend got all those changes packed back into a document, and some of the legal questions we raised got answers back on Sunday. So there hadn't been time to put all that into it. We, what I'm seeing, and this is a discussion, so we should talk about it, is this is important. There are other issues that have come up since that workshop with people concerned about protection of groundwater, which was all along a concern that we were trying to address through density. But it turns out that either may not be feasible or there might be better ways to do it. But it just gets increasingly more complicated. More people, we're in 2 groundwater districts, the LCRA and the Brazos Valley, depending on what part of the county you're in. And then there is a state area, and we're not going to be able to talk to those people realistically, get feedback and meet our schedule of having a public, of pushing another document out to the public and having a public hearing on the 12th of July. It just can't happen. The other side of that equation is we have a budget process going on. We have statutory time limits as to when budgets have to get filed, when they have to have hearings, when they have to get approved, when tax rates have to get set and passed to the appraisal district. And there's no room for changing that. So my thought would be to defer, to pass on the public hearing. Means we'll have to renotice it down the line, give 30 days of notice again. Get the budget done, can roll back out the changes from Monday's meeting, the legal input for commissioners to consider while I'm working on the budget. And then when we probably have to have another workshop and another round of revision, and then probably by the time we're finished with the budget, we'll be in a position to go back out and with a public hearing notice. But I'm just running out of time to do both things at once. It's not going to work, and there's no way to postpone the budget.
So Judge, are you going to make the corrected version available for people to review, or?
Yeah, I was going to, now it's not done. I mean,
Right, I
it's,
understand that. I mean,
but yeah, we'll put it on the website. Absolutely. So it'll be like updated through yesterday.
And so just to answer some of the questions that were brought up, a lot of those questions you brought up were addressed in that meeting. So the property values and all that other stuff was redlined down to that. So just to let y'all know, but y'all can make sure look at it and look at it. Also Mr. Smith, the subdivision definition was also addressed in that. We also talked about the firearm issue in length. It was a long discussion, so on Monday. So those were all discussed. So that y'all know. And on the committees, they're not the first ones that's brought up the committee. Haven't you heard other people tell you about that community committee or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, my allergy to committees and group input's valuable, but we're here where we are because in 2017, some people were going to get together and do this, and here we are in 2021, and nothing happened. So, I mean, yeah, we could delegate all this to a committee and have.
If the committee was to meet, since we're going to reset that, did they meet and give their opinions before then? And maybe one of us commissioners run that meeting or something like that to get input, or would that, Gerald, is that legal? You weren't listening. Could one of us?
I'm not afraid to
Wake up.
Why did you say that?
Could one of us commissioners up here run a community meeting without it being a public meeting before the next public, because we're going to have to reschedule the public hearing, so. You're not going to follow what I'm saying, so it is mentioned by several people. It's mentioned by several people here today. That to get a community involvement committee together. And since we're having to reschedule the public hearing, one of us commissioners run that
public meeting without breaking any rules, guidelines. Just, I'm just saying one commission volunteer to do that. Or appoint you to do it. You could do it, right? You volunteer to do it? No, that's fine.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Okay, that's it.
I actually was like.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean,
So, I was just trying to take a
Yeah.
load off your plate. I know you've met with several of these concerns in your own office. And so if there was something us commissioners could do besides just stay here, so.
well, I think there's one issue, and this is perhaps a Gerald Hale question. Open Meetings Act. Say we appoint a committee to work on this. Is that committee going to be held to public meetings requirements?
Don't think so.
Okay.
As long as there's not a quorum of commissioners there or elected agency, any government agency, then I don't think we're in violation of the Open Meetings Act. It's not a meeting, it's an open meeting.
But it's just a
Yeah.
thought. It's just a thought.
If we can get, I'm not opposed to it. I don't know that this is the right, we need to put some thought into whom, because we tend to hear from one constituency here in the courtroom, and then I hear from other constituencies over the phone, as do y'all.
Well, I think it's plenty important that we do have our community involved in this, Judge, and have a committee this way.
Well, I mean, you could do the community involvement two ways: big old public meeting, or you pick 4 or 5 people and then get more done, but probably run back into the issue of somebody who wasn't picked.
Right. Well, we kind of had a guideline, like Mike said a while ago, we get a lot of professional people out here in our community. And I think everybody will respect their decision.
I think that comment was objecting to holding the professionals responsible for complying with law.
The way how accountable is intimidating with the threat.
So I think the people that are involved in subdivisions are one cohort, but more importantly are the people that aren't involved, the people that live here, that ranch here, that retire here, that live in existing subdivisions, any of those categories. They need to have a voice in this too, to protect what they have and their way of life and their wells, as much as the people that have a vested interest in making smaller properties.
Well, that could include anyone that's in our community. That's the point I was trying to make, not
And I
whether
understand.
professional ranchers or whoever it might be.
I understand this for the public hearing comes in. I was just trying to streamline it a little bit more, I don't know.
Well, one thing I've heard some counties do is each commissioner names each commissioner and me, all 5 of us, we each appoint one person or name a person. So why don't y'all, everybody get me a name? And the only reason I'm saying that is because some of you may have the same name, and we want to get 5 people, an odd number.
Do we have to limit it to one person?
Well, if you get enough people, you're going to get the state legislature, the
Well,
U.S.
I think,
Congress.
a couple
get
of people
enough.
from your precinct. would be,
Right, but if you say you do 2, so now we're talking a group of 20 people. Is that a functional committee? Yeah, I've never seen a 20-person committee do anything. Why?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Dave. You're making the mayor.
I mean, well, the whole deal, like our precinct, actually in cases, Mullen and Bridge.
Okay,
If I was gonna do that, I'd try to get somebody from the Mullen area, somebody from Bridge.
yeah,
I'm good.
You know,
okay, let's
town,
do
you might
two
get somebody
names
from-
each, okay?
Sure. I think too,
It's a better choice than just one.
Yes, I do too.
Because you need somebody from each.
But yeah, but
Each camp.
think broadly. I mean, we got, besides landowners and people live here, we got firemen, we got EMS, we got postal workers, we got law enforcement. Sure. All of these people need to be considered. Okay, well, yeah, give me that list of names. I will publish something on the website and in the paper, taking that July 12th date off the table.
Give us a second or anything on that.
There's no motion. This is a discussion. Yeah, we're not taking any action. We didn't take any action to post that hearing, so we don't need to take any action to not have a meeting we never voted to have.
Well, I think that's the right thing, to just take a half a step back
Okay.
to get this done and get it done right first time.
Yeah, I don't want to do this twice.
What's our county? We ought to, they'd have people have input in it.
Well, this is, yeah, but we ought to do it more often than every 45 years or whatever. Okay, so that's the discussion of the subdivision regulations. Commissioners requesting reports. Commissioner Wright.
We've been blading roads. Chris had called me about the law enforcement center. They had a bad washout out there on the range, and it was draining in some of the Schuster's buildings. And we went out and we fixed it. That's about all I've done.
We've been doing some mowing on some right of ways and hauling rock and putting in some washout ditches on the sides of some other roads. I guess that's about it, yes.
Commissioner Parker.
Hauling base and working on equipment.
I've done a little road work on County 536, 540, 531. Doing a lot of right-of-way work, a lot of people clearing some fence lines and stuff, and putting in new culverts and new entrances. Also been running the shredder. We're gonna finish up the shredder this week, Dale, and we'll bring it to you Monday morning or Friday afternoon. Is that okay? Okay. And I had, besides that, we had a good budget workshop on Friday with just the commissioners. Kind of got everybody's wish list. It's probably not gonna happen this year, but at least it'll get us in the right direction where we want to go for the future. That's it, good.
Okay, the judge's report. I'm trying to wrap up the initial budget input and make sure I've had feedback from every department going through it. I'm not sure I've got them all. We've got some meetings scheduled this week to wrap it up and then try and bring it to a conclusion. The target remains to have a preliminary budget filed by July 31st. Some courthouse things everybody needs to be aware of. The floors, if you did notice them coming in, have been stripped and waxed for the first time, probably since the renovation, at least on the second, this floor and the main floor. It looks really good. See how long it lasts, and want to thank the sheriff for the use of trustees that helped us get that done with nominal additional expense other than some pizza. We are starting to have problems with the big doors in the courthouse. They're 8 or 10 feet tall, and there's a lot of torque in the winds on the high wind days. And we've had them now on the east side of the courthouse, where it's starting to torque the wood panel loose down at the bottom of the pane glass. So we've got a tape to shut it. If we don't do that right now, at some point, somebody's going to open it, that wood joint will come apart, and that pane of glass will fall, and it'll be a mess. So we need to talk to the historical commission and also.
I gave that guy the information to talk to. That
Okay.
lady that's over.
Okay, well, that's all I've got. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make motion, we adjourn.
I'll say.
There's a motion, the second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We're meeting adjourned.